right, that's good enough. I don't want to go to 0. Thank you for tuning in to the Rapid Round. I've got a great comic that I'm going to bring on in just a sec. But before that, I want to do a real quick announcement, if I can find it. So if you've been listening to the podcast or seen me talk, seen me do anything, you know I've been talking about those Discover Pods Awards and voting and all that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out we won. So Behind the Bits is the best interview style podcast for 2020. According to Discover Pods, your votes helped. We beat people like Dax Shepard. You can see his little face there, armchair expert. We beat Mark Maron. We beat Conan O'Brien. So your votes really meant something, and that means something to me. I'm going to do an official announcement about this, but I wanted to let you know because you listened to me talk about it so much and you voted. I really appreciate it because we won. Thank you. Now let's get on to the rapid round. So today I've got an actor-comedian known for his roles on Gotham, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and The Letterman Show. He's performed comedy on both coasts, and his stand-up comedy style is a blend of autobiographical stories and 21st century cultural critiques delivered with his East Coast attitude. He's participated in the New York Comedy Festival, Boston Comedy Festival, and Laugh Riots. He's also the host of a really cool new podcast, well, not super new, Corona new, called Weird AF News. And if you know my humor, AF means always and forever, haha. But yeah, that podcast is really cool, really neat, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. Just a quick podcast on the weird news that's going on, and we know what's going on. So we're bringing out Jonesy. How you doing, Jonesy?
Hey, Scott, congratulations on you winning the award for Best Interview Style Podcast. I mean,
thank you. I found out about a half hour before we started here, so I wanted to put it out there.
That's tremendous. It's a lot of pressure on me now. I didn't realize I was being interviewed by such a damn professional.
Yeah.
I'm very, very nervous now, okay? I hope I do a good job here. I'm going to follow your lead.
Okay. Well, my lead is you do most of the talking, so as long as that happens, we're good.
Fabulous. All right.
Yeah.
Well, talking is something I'm good at, so let's do it.
Yeah, excellent. So as far as the rapid round is concerned, I ask Entertainment Tonight style questions so that we can let our viewers know what's going on, and then we go off of live to talk about the real stuff, and they have to subscribe to Behind the Bits in order to listen to it. So let's start out. Where are you from, Jonesy?
Oh, I'm from Massachusetts. I'm a masshole, as we say. Yeah.
I was in this, I used to be a heavy cigar smoker, and I was in this group, and they had a whole subgroup called the Massholes. It was all Boston people.
Oh, they must have been hilarious because we're very funny people.
Yeah. So when did you start doing stand-up?
I started around 2004
okay.
when the Red Sox won the World Series that year. Never forget it. Yeah, and I tried it because my roommate in college was trying it. He was doing it, and I accompanied him to a comedy open mic, and it was terrible, and everybody was horrible. Even my roommate was just bad, and I was like, man, if these fools can do this, I have confidence that I could try this. And I had kind of helped him with his material anyways, so although the material wasn't very good, I sort of got it. I was like, oh, okay, this is what you do. All right. And then I said, well, why don't I just try it on my own? And rather than living vicariously through him, I had already been comfortable on stage. I had been singing in bands for a few years.
Oh.
I sort of knew my way around the stage, and a microphone wasn't something that made me nervous. So I thought, let me give this a go. Turns out it's a lot scarier than singing in a band.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all alone up there without a net, At least in a band, if the song goes wrong, the responsibility is diffused between 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
When the shit goes wrong in stand up, it's all you, man. The material's you, the delivery's you, the performance is you. It's all on you.
Yeah. No doubt. So that first time obviously was a little bit nerve-wracking. Do you feel like it kind of started a fire in you to keep doing it though?
Yeah, it sure did because it was difficult, and I was kind of like, I liked the challenge. I thought to myself, hey, uh, I want to see if I can figure this out. I I'm pretty sure I'm funny. I've been told I've been funny my whole life. Of course, that doesn't always translate to stand up. As we all
Right.
know, it takes something else as well. But I was pretty determined to make it work. I wouldn't. I'm like, I'm not going to stop until I can get some laughs at least. Let me figure this out. And then I got kind of addicted to it, as we often do. Those of us who have been doing it for 10 years or more, it's quite addicting.
Mm-hmm. So thinking about being where you're from and all the influences you had to work from, who were your biggest influences in getting started and maybe even your style?
Well, getting started, my influences were Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle. The one Dave Chappelle special that we were all obsessed with, my friends and I, was "Killing 'Em Softly."
Mm-hmm.
We all could repeat that entire album verbatim. We were obsessed with it, really, and that was something that was an inspiration to me, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked, I found like an old Bill Cosby DVD. I mean, I know it's not cool to say that now, but like Bill Cosby himself, my stepdad had the DVD, and I watched that too. That is a tremendous special, and it's storytelling style, and it's clean. It's a really great piece that
Yeah.
Bill Cosby himself. I recommend it to anybody listening now. I mean, go back and watch that. It's not. Don't
The
tell
whole
anybody.
Novocaine thing.
Yeah, that
I
dentist
mean,
scene is tremendous. The children coming down, chocolate
yeah.
cake, the breakfast. I mean, there's that is such a tremendous, unforgettable special. Your listeners should definitely give it a chance. Don't tell anybody you're watching it. Of course,
Yeah.
you want to lock yourself. You want to lock yourself in a closet.
No
And,
watch party.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no watch party for that. You don't want to tweet out that you're doing that. Those are my early influences, and then, or at least my motivators, and then I sort of gravitated to the style of guys like I like Bill Burr, and I like Tom Segura, and Louis C.K. and Doug Stanhope. I liked because it's totally Boston. It's the guy with the grievance.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what I know. And in Boston, we're just complainers. We just
Mm-hmm.
sit around and drink coffee and complain, or drink beer and we're just a bunch of complainers. But we complain in a hilarious way. And if you ever listen to a Burr special, it's grievance after grievance after grievance,
Yeah.
in a funny way. And
Mm-hmm.
I really, that to me, that was like, oh, that's me. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do with my friends.
Yeah.
That's how my whole life. That's what I've been doing. Expressing my grievances in funny ways, and
Right.
that's the kind of style that I like. That I sort of was like, yeah, that's kind of like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those people were once I got going, I really like looked at them like, oh man, yeah, those are the people who I sort of aspired to be. Louis C.K., it's embarrassing to say that you're aspired to be him after what had gone down. But as I always say, I aspired to have Louis' career if he didn't have any hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he had no hands, that would be what I would like.
That would have helped him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thinking about comedy albums and comedy specials, what would you say are your top three?
Well, I really like Killing 'Em Softly. I like so many of the Burr ones, and their names escape me. I can't remember the names of but there's like 3 Bill Burr tremendous specials that I really love. Not the last one, but even like probably the 4 before that. I'm like, you can't go wrong with those. And I really like all of the Louis. I especially like the one he's in a suit. I can't remember what that one's called, but I really love that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the Stanhope one where he's what's the one? He's wearing the baseball jersey. Yeah, these names all escape me.
That's the one where he's talking about his mom a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and I liked Tom Segura's, not the last one when he has a bag of dodgeballs on his back. The one before that, I really dig that one quite a bit. I'm sorry, these names escape me.
That's all right. That's all right. I wanted to ask you before we went private in our chat, whatever you want to say, before people can't watch us. I wanted to talk to you about the Weird AF News.
So
sure. I've been listening to that quite a bit, and
really?
I think it was born out of the pandemic a little bit for you. And just tell me a little bit about that and where you're getting your news and what it's all about.
Sure. Well, it wasn't born out of the pandemic. I've been doing this podcast for over 3 years.
Oh, wow.
We got 850 plus episodes in the can, 1.2 million downloads. I've been doing this a long time. 5 days a week, weird news, and I've missed very few days during that time span. I do 3 weird news stories a day, Monday through Friday. On Friday, I only do weird news out of Florida only, called Florida Friday, which is the most popular episode. It gets twice as many downloads as any of the others because I think people are quite obsessed with Florida man.
Yeah.
and all the degenerate behavior that comes out of the state of Florida. I think people all around the world are fascinated with Florida, really.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, shows like the Tiger King help, fuel that fire. I mean, it's just a very crazy place. I find my stories online where we find all of our weird news or any news, and I get a lot of articles emailed to me from listeners of the show as well. I get too many, really. It's hard to pick just 3 a day. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that I have to toss in the bin, unfortunately. But what I like to do is take those those stories that I didn't do and do a bonus episode of them, and then I offer it on my Patreon. So I do have a Patreon for the show, and if you don't have one for yours, you should consider it. You can do things like that. Yeah, you got one? You have one? Uh-huh. Yeah. So like you're probably like me. You're trying to find ways of how can I offer my patrons some extra content. So for me, I'll just take those stories that I never did, and I'll make a bonus episode that's like an hour long, and I'll offer that once a month. Sometimes I'll even get a comedian on to come over my apartment, and we'll do the shows together. We'll do the stories together, which I don't do on my actual podcast. My podcast is solo. It's always been solo. Yeah, and it's great. It's been great for the pandemic. A lot of people have written to me and even called into the show to let me know that it's helped get them through the pandemic. It's a nice alternative to mainstream news, which can be just really depressing, as you know, and as your listeners can probably agree as well. Mainstream news, especially lately, it's been rough. So weird news is it's a nice break from that. It's funny. The stories are usually funny, and I try to add some humor to them as well to amp up the comedy. Yeah. And you learn something too. You learn a lot about the world. There's a lot. Yeah. I'm a curious person too, so I try to choose stories that are they are a blend of funny but also fascinating if I can,
Yeah, I really enjoy your commentary. Do you actually like write stuff down for your commentary, or do you just read the news story and then it just comes to you?
So I improv the whole thing. I improv everything. And I think it comes out okay. I think if I was to sit down and write everything out, I think I could add more jokes, but I just don't have time to do it. If I was doing this once a week, sure, no problem. Write out some jokes. But I'm doing it every day, and I just don't have time to sit down and do it. I just have enough time to do the recording of it, read the article, give my take on it, and then edit it and get it out, and then market it. All of that takes tons of time. Yeah. I imagine at some point if I had a team to do all the other shit, I could take the time to write out all the episodes, but I don't. I'm not making that kind of money. I can't hire a team right now. So it's just me. So I'm doing the improv thing, but I've found that it's kind of sort of lends a certain charm to the podcast because, I'm reading it and the audience is listening to it, and it's being revealed to them for the first time as it's being revealed to me for the first time. We're sort of discovering this weird story together, and my reaction is like really genuine, like, oh shit, listen to this guy, listen to what happened after this. He goes to his girlfriend's apartment, he makes pancakes and then passes out. Like it's like I'm like, this is crazy. And they're getting like this genuine reaction from me as I discover the story with them.
Yeah.
And I think allowing myself all the mistakes that I make in there as well is kind of charming. It gives it a natural feeling. And I do have a skill at improv a bit. I'm not great at it. I have friends that are just tremendous improv comedians. I am above average. I would say I'm good. I'm good. But I think that's enough to make it funny enough.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I do it. I try to improv it. I do have a pause button on my recorder.
Okay.
So that's helpful. So if sometimes I can't seem to get it together, like where do I want to go with this? What should I say about this? I will use that pause button while I gather some thoughts, and then I'll get in and do a stream of consciousness reaction to it. I find the pause button is just a big time help. So in that way, I'm able to. The episode isn't completely like just one take. I will, maybe one take isn't the way to describe it. The episode is, I should say, I do at certain points, if I need to, I will pause and gather my thoughts. Because I want to put out the best product that I can, although it's improvised. And it comes with, I'll do impressions of the people that are quoted in the story. I'll do accents. I'll act out, do act outs. I'll sing. I mean, I'll do whatever I think is entertaining when I'm putting out these stories. And so far, so good. I have a modest size group of loyal listeners that listen, to my news every day, like they would CNN or NPR. I think. Yeah.
Well, I really enjoy it, and like I said, the commentary is one of my favorite parts because it did seem to be natural and improv to me. So I wondered if that was the case, or if you're just a really good writer and you do that 5 days a week.
Yeah, I'm a much better writer than I am improver. If I was to write these things, I think we would see a whole new level of it. But then maybe it wouldn't come off natural. I don't know. But I could tell you this. The other benefit I get from improving it is like I feel as though doing this podcast for 3 years or so, I've been working that improv muscle every day, and I think it's something you can work at. It is a muscle, and I think it's made me sharper, and I think my improv skills have improved as a result of doing it all the time. It's like anything else. It's an activity that the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And I find myself in conversations now. Oh, I'm a little quicker, just a little bit. I've noticed it. So I'm getting something out of it by doing this exercise every day.
It's funny. I was scared of improv, and I do stand up too. And a good friend of mine's an improv guy, and he's always trying to pull me into it. So I started something out of the pandemic called the BTB Internet Talk Show, which is an extension of the podcast. And I play a part. Dean Martin. He's been cryogenically frozen. He came back to life. He ran out of money because they thawed him out, and he's living with me. So I bring him out, and I've learned that actually improving and people asking me questions and stuff like that actually helps me to perform comedy too, because you're living more in the moment. You're not worried about your set and stuff like that. So I really never admitted, because I was scared, I really never admitted that improv is a cool thing, but it really turns out it's pretty neat.
Well, I think a lot of us stand-ups sort of have always looked at improv as not as much of a craft as stand-up. I think we say, oh, well, anybody with instincts and can just do that. Like, why don't you try stand-up, where you have to really, it's just a lot more work. And I think we can all agree it certainly is a lot more work. They're completely different skills though, and they're equally frightening. Some of us are more comfortable to having the control of stand-up. I think I am. Although I am comfortable doing crowd work and improvising while I'm in my stand up as well. And some people they can't write. I mean, it's just like they can't do the whole write, repeat, take it back to the lab, edit it, try again. They just cannot do that. And the time it takes to develop a bit, I think it's work, man. It really is work. Whereas improv is you just get up there and boom, and then you forget about it. You go home and you don't think about it again.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it's your temperament. Like if you're the type of person that just you perform and you don't want to think about it after that, improv could be totally your thing. But I am not that person. I think about my performance. I'm always thinking about my material. It's like a running dialogue in my head, back and forth, always on the lookout for new jokes, writing it down. I'm writing things down, wake up in the middle of the night, write it down, record a voice note. Like that's me.
Yeah.
Some people they're not there. That's not their character. They just want to hit and go.
Yeah. Well, I have to say discovering the Weird AF news, it was great for me. And I apologize that I didn't know it had gone on that long. I'd read an article about it, and I think the pandemic must have given you a boost because they were mentioning the pandemic and your podcast. But I have to say, I'm going to go back and listen to back episodes. One thing I really enjoy about it is that it's not super long, and a lot of the podcasts I listen to are hour and a half, and I need those podcasts that I can put up when I'm driving, and I can get to the beginning and end from the store and home, so I'm glad that I found yours, because that's another one I can put in there.
Yeah, I try to keep it at about 15 minutes, 20 the most.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, if you're just going to listen to the stories, it'll be about 15 minutes. It might be a little bit longer if I'm publishing some phone calls at the end. I like to publish some listener phone calls. I don't do that every day, but like today's episode, I've already edited. It's going to be a half an hour just because I got about 12 minutes of just phone calls over the weekend from fans that I'm going to publish. But if you're just going to listen to the stories, very bite-sized, 15 minutes, 13 minutes, and that's it. And that's good. And, I think people now are getting a little tested with these long hour-plus long podcasts. I think people are kind of getting a little like, well, we're a little tired of it. The Joe Rogan 3-hour thing. I mean, we can't all do that. It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
So and with the competition of podcasts now, there's like over 1 million of them. So I think it's helpful to be mindful of people's time.
Yeah.
And especially if you're doing a news show, let's just keep it brief.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's before we go off live, I just have to give Matt his due. You're on the Mind Dog TV podcast, and I'm going to be on it tonight. And yes, I did hear about Jonesy and the podcast from you, Matt, and I will give you your due. Thank you. I love you.
Oh, man, Matt is tremendous. Yeah. I had such a great time with Matt. And Matt, if you're listening, I would love to come on again, because I just so love talking with Matt. Matt's great, man.
He's a cool guy.
He's so cool. So cool.
Yeah, I met him from what I call a garbage podcast group where everybody just promotes their shit all the time. And
I'm a member of one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, he struck out as somebody cool to me, and we've been talking off and on ever since. And I listen to his, he listens to mine, so that's cool.
He's great, man, and he's been in the game a long time. He's got some tremendous guests too, like some real high level stand-ups he's had on his show. He's really doing it, man.
Yeah,
you guys are great. You guys that offer. You as well, Scott, that offer a platform for comedians to talk about what they do. It's like we appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that. I've been on several of these kinds of podcasts, and I always appreciate the opportunity to let people know like what it is I'm doing. Yeah. Whether I'm doing shows or the podcast. Right now, not so many shows going on in my life, but the podcast is something that still goes on despite a pandemic. So I appreciate you letting me familiarize yourself with your audience with Weird AF News and that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. So, folks, we're going to go off live now and talk about the real stuff. If you want to listen to the Jonesy episode, just subscribe to the podcast. It's Behind the Bits. Type it into any podcast app, and there I am. So we're going to go off live, and I will talk